Hey guys, welcome back to the next video in the PCB layout section of our OrCAD X keyboard video series. Again, my name is Adam, and today what we're going to work on is the board outline for our design. So I have here open kind of what we're going to achieve in this video, which is a what kind of looks like a fairly complex board outline. And traditionally what you would do is actually probably draw this in a mechanical CAD tool, such as AutoCAD or FreeCAD or whatever tool you're used to drawing. And then using some of the IDX or DXF import functions in OrCAD X, you could easily transfer that as your board outline into OrCAD X. Now what we're going to do in this video is actually draw it from scratch using the built-in functionality of drawing a board outline. The reason we're going to do that is just so that you can see, if you don't have access to a mechanical CAD tool, you can also draw some pretty complex outlines in OrCAD X. So let me go ahead and open where we left off in the previous video, which is this one right here. And what we're going to do is transform this outline into the one that you saw before. Now I drew here kind of an example, well not an example, just some dimensions of where exactly I want each of those little divots to be in that board outline, and just some general dimensions to keep track of. So the keyboard is going to be 15.5 inches in length and 5.5 inches tall. And you'll notice that at the bottom we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these little keys, and at the at the bottom we have 5 of these keys. At the top we have 4, and on the left side we have 3, and the right side we have 2. I just do this so that I don't accidentally place the board upside down or whatever it might be. It can only go in one way if, for example, I have an enclosure for this keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little smaller and put it on my second monitor here on the right side. And I believe the way this video is, for you guys it's going to look mirrored, so what I call my right side will look like the left side for you. But let's go ahead and get started. So in this drawing, each of these divots have a little hole which has a radius of 62.5 mils. So what we need to achieve is, sorry, not what we need to achieve. What we need to do is set up a grid that will allow us to easily draw this using the built-in functionality. So first thing I want to do actually is, if I select on this board outline, I want to make sure that my origin starts in this bottom left corner. So I can click on pick origin location, and you'll notice that I already have kind of a snap indicator. If you're not seeing it, just click the snapping at the top, make sure that it's on, and click in this left corner. Now the next thing we need to do is, if I deselect my board outline, is to make sure that my drawing is wide enough, right? Because my board is going to be 15.5 inches long and 5.5 inches tall. If I go all the way to the left here, you'll notice that in the bottom right corner, which is right here, it says that this left side is minus 7.5 inches. If I go all the way to the right side, it's 26 inches. But in my design parameters here, the width of my drawing is only 21 inches. So I need to extend this. If this left side here is minus 7.5 inches, I need to extend this at least 15.5 plus 7.5, or to be safe, I'm just going to call this 30 inches wide. And a height of 17 is actually just fine, because if this is 0 here, and this is 6, and this is minus 5, that's plenty of space in the y direction. So let's go ahead and set up a grid. If we go to grids, let's turn the visibility on. And our current design units is in mils, so we'll keep it at that. Let's go ahead and set our quick grid to 62.5 mils in the X and 62.5 mils in the Y. What that should allow us to do is to easily draw those little divots. And also I want to round the corners of my board as well. So There's two ways to start editing your board outline. The first is that you can actually select the existing board outline and use these little indicators to, for example, extend it in one of these directions or take one of these vertices and move it around. You can also right click and select Edit Boundary and, for example, add a vertex. And let me just make sure that this is working. Let's finish that command again. So Edit Boundary. There we go. So there's a little vertex added, and then you can move that around and make, some more complex shapes. So this vertex will also snap to points, for example, if you have a grid enabled. Whatever it might be, you can start to add these points and create a pretty complex outline. But what we want to do is actually start at this origin and go to ECO and select the Draw Design Outline option. In our command options here, we have polygon, rectangle, and circle. If you click X, you can also get this command options window to hover above, somewhere on your canvas. Just click X to bring it back into this docked options panel on the right side. And in this polygon mode, we have, three different options. We can either draw a straight line. So if I start drawing from this section here, should start drawing. Let's try that again. Draw design outline. Start from here. There we go. So I can either draw on a straight line, or if I click A, you'll notice that it should turn into, So line angle lock, cycle with A. So this is either 45-degree angles. If I click A, it's 90-degree angles. Or I can use Q to cycle between a straight line or, for example, a arc. And if I click this again, then we can do a full half circle as well. So we'll be using this to draw those little divots and also the corners for my design. Now you'll notice also that there's a really nice heads up indicator here, which will tell us, for example, what is the radius of the arc that I'm drawing, or if I'm in this line mode, then it will tell me what is the length of the current segment that I'm drawing. So if I drop a segment here and then start drawing another one, right, the length is from the last drawn point. And if I start drawing a lot of these points and I make a mistake, then I can just use the backspace to remove the last vertex. So, all right. Let's go ahead and get started with drawing this outline. So let me just click backspace here. And what I want to do is actually start from this point here, because we will then be later adding a little arc here to round the corner of our board. So starting from this point, our first little divot is at 1 inch. So we're going to go over to 1 inch, move back 1 point right here, and then using the straight line, go like this. And there we go. We have our first little key. And we're going to go over to 4.5, which I'm going to be using the indicator in the bottom right corner to kind of tell me where my mouse is. So 4.5 should be right here. So go back 1 point, up, draw that, and we're good to go. And then 8.5. And if you make a mistake, don't worry. Either use backspace to remove the last vertex you drew, or later on we can also edit these vertices just to adjust anything that we need to. So don't worry too much. If you want to start with a rough outline and then make adjustments, that's totally okay as well. So next point is 12.25, which is right here. So we'll go back 1 point. There we go. And last but not least, 15. Which is right there. Go back 1 point. And I'm going to be cycling this cue pretty often. So if you look in the top right corner here, I'm either using the straight line or the arc and half circle. So at 15.5, which is right around here, we go back one and then make our little half circle, or excuse me, arc. And that is essentially the corner of our board. And we'll get that same corner in this location here once we get around to it. So, all right, now we need to go up to 1.625, which is going to be somewhere around here, 1.625. And at 3. So 3 is right here. And then finish up at 5.5. Perfect. Okay. And now we just add the top section. Should be around here. So 11.75. Yeah, so we can also zoom out and see these other points that we have drawn and kind of line up with them. So yeah, 11.75 should be somewhere around here. Oh, if I look at my little reference here, I drew 11.75 in line with this 12.5, but really this should be somewhere a little back here. So we'll draw that correctly on our outline. So 11.75 is right here. Go back one spot. And then we go to 8.5. There's 8.5. And 4.75. And we can still see our old board outline here. That will disappear once we finish drawing this. So 4. Here's 4.75. And 1.5. Okay, now we just go back to right around 0. So this is 0 here, and then we go back one spot, draw our angle, or our arc, excuse me, and then at 0.4, which is right this is 4, 0.3. This is 3. And 0.1, we have one last little key. And then we just finish up with our last arc. Alrighty. So there we go. We've drawn a board outline. If you want to measure between any of these points, for example, from this line to this line, hold down the Alt key, and you can measure between points. So between this point and this point, for example, I can see is 93.75 mils. Or if we go from the bottom here, let me just turn off the grid. If we go from the bottom to the top, we should have 5.5, which is correct. If we go from the left all the way to the right, should be 15.5. So our dimensions are correct. If we look at all of these arcs here, these are also, snap point is at 1.625, or the center here is at, just make sure that it's snapping, 1.625, comma 0.625. So maybe this is off by a little bit. I can also just select the board outline and make adjustments as needed, like I mentioned before. We can go ahead and keep this. Where these are exactly doesn't matter too much to me at the end of the day. What's most important is that I have some mounting holes to go with, and that we can use those as a reference for if we're making an enclosure for this board or not. Now, one thing you'll notice is these two lines in the center here as well. Excuse me, not in the center. Let me increase the opacity really quick. These two lines on the inside of our board outline. If we hover over them, you'll see that this is the conductor keepin and the component keepin. These are automatically generated by the tool just so that it's easier to generate them instead of trying to manually redraw them inside the board outline. If we click on the board outline and go into our options, you should see, in the properties, you should see the section for a conductor keepin and a component keepin. And what you can do is type in how far from the board outline you want to contract the conductor keepin and the component keepin. Traditionally, this is done, not traditionally, this is done because once this board is manufactured on a panel, the fabricator needs to cut it out of that panel, and we need to allow for a little bit of tolerance. So if we place our components too close to the board outline, or even have copper features too close to the board outline, if the tolerance is not tight enough, then there's a chance that those might get damaged by the milling process of getting this board out of the panel. So either way, we are pretty much done with our board outline here. In the next video, we will talk about how to set up your cross-section or the layer stack-up for this design. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you again for watching. If you have questions or comments, please leave those below. And as with all of our other OrCAD X tutorial videos, I will also be providing a link to where you can download this board file specifically if you want to pick up from this point in the video series, or at any point in the video series, you can just download the accompanying board files. So again, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.